Hey everybody, thanks for watching. We're in Yorktown. Jack is holding the camera. We're in Yorktown, Virginia because we are going to the MyGolfSpy testing facility and headquarters, which is coming up here, and that looks like it. No, we'll find out. All right, so the biggest story in golf this year, and probably the biggest story in golf equipment in, I don't know, as long as I've been playing, for sure, has been the Costco golf ball. And really the whole reason that the Costco Kirkland signature golf ball has blown up, or one of the main factors in it blowing up, is that MyGolfSpy tested it, and they found that it was just a little bit longer, and anyway, they said that it was a better ball than the Titleist. So I want to talk to the guy who did those tests today, and just kind of check out their facility and everything and see what the scoop is. This is it, the MyGolfSpy headquarters, well, testing facility, I guess it's the headquarters. Let's check it out. Knock, knock. All right, so not fake. This is a fake re-intro, but this is Sam Robinson. And Sam, you're the director at this facility, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about it. What is this place?
So here, I kind of like to call this our golf research facility. We run anything from club testing to putter testing, and sometimes we're in here, sometimes we're outside. So for the Kirkland test, we were outside on the golf course. But here we'll run our most wanted testing, and our most wanted testing is,
check that out.
Our biggest testing of the year, so we'll have all the equipment for the 2017 year, and we'll test it all in here.
So you mentioned it a little bit when we walked in, but the biggest story in golf right now, and I think it's probably the biggest story in golf equipment, certainly since I've played, which has been only like 13 years or something, has been this Costco golf ball. So first of all, are you guys paid by Costco or anything?
Absolutely not. No.
No. Okay.
The way that we wanted to run the test is actually one of our writers. He found the Costco balls at Costco and posted a picture of it, and I brought it to Adam.
Yeah.
It was a Monday morning, and I was like, dude, what are we gonna do? He's like, we're testing it.
Okay.
And I was on Costco later that day buying balls.
Yeah.
And I don't think we got enough for the test because we ended up almost running out.
I don't think anybody has enough.
Yeah, nobody come buy them.
Yeah.
Well, it was so funny because nobody knew about them, and I just thought they were, running the mill Kirkland golf balls.
And another Top Flight or another Dunlop or just base brand. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when we were doing the TrackMan, Ed Tier up at Kiskiak, he was running it. It's not like he was back there saying, dude, you're killing it with the Kirkland ball, but Adam participated in the test, and he was 30 yards longer with the Kirkland ball.
Okay.
And now that does kind of go in tune with the right ball doesn't fit everybody.
Yeah.
I don't play Pro V1s for a reason because I spin the ball a lot.
Yeah.
But Kirkland's, they're the real deal.
Yeah. So I know that so there was some argument that Michael Breed called it one of the most unscientific tests he's ever seen, and kind of trashed the MyGolfSpy test of it. Hank Haney also said some stuff about how the testing was, so they started not really attacking the ball, but they just said that the testing was bad and kind of getting personal. And then I know that was it Adam that called into their show?
Yep.
So Adam called into the show to defend the test. So let's just talk about so how was the test run to find out that, okay, is this golf ball better? And I'll grab the ball because we have one cut in half here, so just to see what we're talking about. So here's the Kirkland 5-piece, right?
It's 4-piece, yep.
Oh, 4-piece. And then this is a 3-piece Titleist. So tell us about the kind of the protocol used to do this.
So over the past 6 years, Adam and I would call him Adam's right-hand man, Tony Covey, and I'm sure you've read some of his articles on MyGolfSpy. They flew around the country and spoke with every single R&D engineer, tester that they could find to really create the most robust testing protocols that we use today. So the way that I run the driver test is basically the same way we ran the putter the ball test. Was that we had you would hit 3 Titleist balls, 3 Kirkland balls, 3 Titleist balls, and you would switch off back and forth.
Yep.
And then what club you started with was also randomized. So, like I might have started with the sand wedge on Titleist balls, and then I would switch off until I got 12 good shots with the sand wedge and 12 good shots with the 12 good shots on the Kirkland.
So you're testing it with the sand wedge, but you're hitting sand wedge, 6-iron, sand wedge.
Well, we're sticking with the one club,
okay.
but we're switching the ball.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
And then we'll go, maybe jump to the driver, and then you'll switch off balls, and then you'll go back to the 6-iron and switch off balls.
Yeah. So one of the things that Michael Breed said, and I think some other people have brought up that I think is really interesting, that you guys refute, is that they said, oh, if it wasn't done with a robot, it's not really super valid, these results. But you guys said, no, actually, robot testing is not as good as having people do it.
Right. Well, I mean, we're trying to mimic as best we can reality.
Actual golf.
And that's exactly what we do. And like I said, over the past 6 years, they've been creating our testing protocol, and the way that we calculate the data is becoming more and more robust. So we're able to, even though, of course, it's not perfect. You and I obviously don't have the same swing, and that's actually part of what goes into it. And because if we have, if we all have the same 110 mile an hour swing speed, I mean, what are we really testing?
Same paths and everything.
Exactly.
Right.
And there's Adam Beach himself.
Oh, hey, Adam. We're in the middle of our deal right now. Hey, so this is the founder of MyGolfSpy.
How you doing?
Right?
Nice
So
to meet you.
we were just talking about this, the big news about the golf ball. This is one of the Kirkland split open balls and everything else. And we're talking about the testing protocols that you guys did.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit, how did you develop how you test things?
Oh, it's been
The process.
Yeah, it's been a long process. So I've been in the industry 16 years. When I got into MyGolfSpy, we flew around the country and met with all the R&D guys, statisticians, product developers. Goal was to have the most robust, comprehensive, statistically significant equipment testing in the industry.
Right.
So the best place to start, we thought, was with the manufacturers that were already doing testing. To our surprise, their testing wasn't really as robust as we thought it would be. Some were, some were not. One that we have used quite often for feedback is Ping Golf. So we work really closely with them on our testing protocols, and we'll send them stuff and say, hey, what do you think? And they'll do sometimes the same thing with us, or this is some interesting insight we saw from this. So for example, Hank Haney just had a big issue with what's called throwing shots, and so did Michael Breed.
Oh, I got you. So somebody hit just an off the wall terrible shot, and you throw that shot out of the test.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what we have come up with is called the outlier detection system, and that is, the purpose is to detect and separate the difference between whether or not you're testing the performance of the club or the ability of a golfer.
Okay. Yeah.
And you need to separate the two. So if a guy hits a particular shot, there's algorithms and things called ellipses that will tell you kind of whether or not that was a human error or performance error.
Yeah.
And the closer you can get to that reality, the more you can tell the reality of the performance of a golf product. So in theory, what you want is to be able to do a huge test, and at the end of the day, be able to tell people the reality of which ones really perform better, and which ones perform better not only for the general public, but also drill down to the specific golfer. So for example, there's a Golf Digest hot list that over the years was kind of the Bible for telling people kind of what to try, right?
Yeah.
It was very subjective, but at the end of the day, it gave you some type of guideline. Our goal was to come out with something that was based on data, right? So unfortunately, the first few years, we would look at all this data and go, wow, we have definitively, after talking to manufacturers, they agree that what we've come up with is probably the best products in that category, right? But the problem was, it was the best product overall for the general public.
Gotcha.
So how do we get down? We're doing a disservice to our readers if we can't drill down to a guy that swings 89.5 miles an hour, has an angle of attack of X, and a tempo of whatever. So that's what we're working on now, and what we're getting ready to create. So we're getting ready to create something that will, I think, blow the top off the golf industry, and it's going to be able to fit golfers without them ever coming into a golf facility and ever swinging the club.
So you're trying to create something that's like a industry-wide testing protocol.
And we're already doing that. So we've already done that. So we started with the driver, and that was kind of our proof of concept. Right?
Most wanted driver test.
But for us, it was really a research project where we tried to come up with the most statistically significant test, but instead of going with irons, wedges, fairway woods, putters, we wanted to perfect the driver first. And then once we figure out the driver, we thought it would be much easier to just drill down from there. So we perfected the driver test in our opinion. And then now this year will be the first year we do the entire bag, driver down to putter.
That's cool.
And then we'll be coming out with a new product and a new website separate to MyGolfSpy that will solve a problem that the industry's had forever.
So it sounds like you're talking about something that like you'll be able to tell about yourself, like, oh, this is the type of golfer I am.
Imagine being able to be fit perfectly for a golf club without ever even swinging a club.
Gotcha.
So never having to walk into a golf store and definitively knowing not only what product is best for you, but how much you're going to gain from it, distance-wise, accuracy-wise, strokes gained-wise, everything.
That's awesome. And so the one thing, the last thing on the Costco ball I wanted to ask, that I thought, because when I'm on the mailer, the MyGolfSpy mailer, and I saw like, we test the Costco ball, I was thinking like, for some reason, like, I don't know, some people say like you guys have like a vendetta against Titleist. And I was thinking like, oh, okay, is this going to trash the Titleist golf ball? Because like Titleist pulled out of some of your testing a couple years ago.
They haven't been a part of our test for years.
You're right.
But we still put their clubs in our test.
Okay, but it's not like a personal thing against.
No, I mean basically this comes out to this. You know, we call it power to the player. Okay.
Yep.
And that is putting the power back in the consumer's hands, not the manufacturers. And marketing has become more important than performance, unfortunately, for consumers.
Yep.
So there's a lot of muddied water for consumers to figure out. We already kind of knew that the Kirkland ball was going to test well.
Okay.
So we did research and found out that the Titleist Pro V1 2015 was the closest ball, cover hardness, and in a bench test compared to the Kirkland. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are the two we compared. Now, granted, there's also some value from killing some brand washing to taking the #1 perceived ball in golf to a ball made from a place that sells 5 gallons of mayonnaise.
Right.
Okay, so there is some value inherently in doing that type of test, but we already had done some small testing behind closed doors.
Yeah, that's cool.
So people are going to think and try to discredit a lot of things when you take a brand that has spent billions of dollars on marketing to try to convince you of something, okay?
Yeah.
So we don't care about names. At the end of the day, names don't matter to us at all. All that matters is the numbers.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I have dedicated my entire career to the consumer, period. So if the person now is first learning about us and goes, they must be bashing Titleist because they produce. Every time we hit publish on an article,
we're bashing somebody.
Some reader says we're bashing somebody. I mean, this place was funded by me, period. There is not another dedicated test facility in the country that is based on empowering the consumer with golf information, period. So I try to say, hey, I back it up with the entire part of my career of 16 years. I'm not going to continue to be detracted by some guy on the internet saying that we're trying to discredit Titleist.
Okay, gotcha. And the thing that I like about MyGolfSpy is watch your finger there, Jer.
There you go.
Okay. The thing that I like about MyGolfSpy, it's brand agnostic. So business-wise, you guys won't take money from the major manufacturer. So this is really funded, a lot of it by donations straight from people who want to see these, this kind of information out there to the public. So show us around, guys, a little bit of the place. All right, so this is a 1.5 year old, this place.
Correct. We had been doing testing all over the country before and needed to reach a point. So in my the way I do this is MyGolfSpy was kind of a 4-phase business. Phase 1 was just proof of concept to see if pardon my language, but it's about creating enough content and good enough content to see if you create something that people actually give a damn about.
Right.
So if that was the case, then I would be willing to move to phase 2, which was investing in a test facility dedicated to doing testing. But this was something that had never been done, so we needed to find out if this was a possibility. The line in the sand was 500,000 readers for a dedicated 12 months in a row.
Okay.
We did that. So then I moved to phase 2, which was building a facility, and a lot of plans from here on out. We're probably going to expand and do some other things, but along this wall you'll see some of these are just putters that have tested well over the years that we use for kind of controls and tests. Some of them are mine. That's an iron by iron type putting machine.
Yeah, this thing's cool.
believe it or not, there's not a lot of purpose to it.
Yeah, we haven't really
It doesn't
used
really
it
help.
since I've been.
Yeah.
So robots, you know, the average consumer thinks
We were talking about that with Sam because one of the things that I think Michael Breed brought up was that they didn't test it with robots, so you can't.
Yeah, so when we flew around the country, if robots would have been the thing that they told us to buy, we would have had 2 robots in here.
Yeah.
That was definitely not the case.
Okay.
I met with the guy that invented the robot, the guy that invented the next robot, and then we went to all the club companies pretty much and got their feedback. Not a single one of them said that robots is the way the product tests.
Okay.
So, if that were the case, like I said, we would have obviously invested in a robot.
Yeah.
That not being the case, it's now become very difficult to change the opinion of the perceived thought that robots are the way to test, because it makes sense. You have this thing that continues to repeat the same
it's
swing.
the same, right.
But I can give you a couple examples, and I did with Breed. So, take a putter.
Okay.
Identical putters.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say 2 Bettinardi's or 2 whatever,
Yeah.
and they are identical specs. Take
Yeah.
one with a steel shaft and one with a blacked out shaft.
Mhm.
Blacked out shaft performs better so far in 3 years straight, okay? Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, a robot is not gonna know whether there's a steel shaft or a black shaft in there.
Yeah.
What we think is happening is because the fewer distractions and variables a brain has,
Mm-hmm.
the better they seem to perform,
Yeah.
okay? So steel shaft produces a lot of glare.
Yeah.
Sun, different types of things. A black shaft produces none. Your eyes focus more on the aiming point of the, the alignment aid of the putter.
Yeah.
So another one is, let's say, a Bridgestone JGR driver.
Mm-hmm.
Put it on a robot test, set it up perfectly, great. It's going to test out well. Put
Yeah.
it in real golfers' hands, it performs dismally. Why is that? The upright was so abysmally upright
Okay.
that when golfers actually put it into play and not
Compensated
robot,
for it. And,
well,
yeah.
subconsciously your brain has to adjust to that.
Yeah.
Well, everything is 25, 40 yards left of the center.
Yeah.
So robot can't tell you that either.
Right.
Those are just 2 examples of,
Well, especially now that we're getting to a lot of the, we're so on the razor's edge of the USGA limits, that a lot of the changes where we're seeing benefits are in like visual cues and things like that, not really?
I disagree with the USGA
Okay.
limits. I mean, they've put limits on a couple things. There's always going to be a cops and robbers type game
Right.
going on.
Yeah.
They can't just say this is a free-for-all. If there was, we'd go back to those things where there was 1,000cc driver. And so they have to rein it in some, and people will disagree, but at the end of the day, almost every sport, softball, anything, has some type of conforming rules.
Yep.
And when softball, for example, went against those, people were getting injured and dying,
Yeah.
That wouldn't necessarily happen with golf, but
Somebody died playing softball?
I mean, it got dangerous.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just because the ball was coming off so hot.
Yeah, they changed the
Was that the bladder,
the
that
core of the
balloon?
ball,
Oh,
and
okay.
allowed the ball to come off faster, no different than a ball off the bat. Okay,
Yeah.
so the basic rule of thumb is kind of if something comes at an object at 100 miles an hour and leaves at 80 whatever, there's a loss of energy there, right?
Yeah.
So same with the ball in softball, and they allowed that to go higher,
Oh, yeah.
and you couldn't even react as a pitcher or a third baseman to
Right.
a line drive anymore.
Smoke.
So there's things that you'll see it. I think this year with the Callaway Epic driver, they're calling it jailbreak technology because they're getting around kind of the USGA's limitations.
Okay.
You've seen it with the turbulators on pings.
Yep.
I mean, that's adding another for 120 mile an hour swing speed, 1 point whatever mile an hour swing. I mean,
big difference.
So you just have to stop thinking and being confined to the internal parts of the driver head and
Yeah.
start thinking outside the box, which a lot of golf companies have trouble doing.
Like the Hammer X driver.
Yeah, we're going to test that.
Yeah,
Coming
right.
soon.
Yeah, yeah.